Hey everyone, and welcome back to another episode of A Brush with Death. I am your host, Casey Hanalei, and in this series I sit down, I tell you a true crime story, and I paint you a pretty picture at the same time. But you may be wondering why this episode I'm wearing these fabulous but ridiculous sunglasses, and it has to do with our luxurious subject today, which is Mr. Gianni Versace. Hi. Also, we have another, I think, luxurious guest joining us today, Mr. Jeff Goldblum in the background. So say hi to Jeff. Hello, Jeffrey. So we will be talking about Mr. Gianni Versace today, his life, his legacy, and his murder. So let's get into it. Mr. Gianni Versace was born December 2nd, 1946 in Reggio di Calabria in Italy. I did look up how to say everything, so I am going to try my best, so please be kind. He grew up among design when he was very young. His mother was a dressmaker, so growing up, he watched his mother do it and he learned from her. Also, his brother and sister also learned that trade as well. And then after high school, Gianni went to work for his mother at her dressmaking shop. So he's already fully immersed. Okay, so let's fast forward a little bit to 1972. So he has a few years under his belt working under his mother, designing and making dresses for her in a dress shop. And in 1972, when he's 26, he moves to Milan. His brother and sister also follow him, Santo and Donatella, who you may have heard of. And there he picks up some work, freelance designing for a few Italian designers like Jenny, Complice, and Callahan, I think is the other one. So he has a few years of that. So 6 years later, in 1978, he opens Versace. And Santo and Donatella are helping him. So Santo was in charge of finance, and Donatella was helping Gianni in the design department. So that is a family affair, and they open Versace. So I was curious to find out where the Versace Medusa head comes from. So Versace, or Versace as the fancy people call it, has Medusa as its logo, right? It's on everything that they produce. And there is a backstory. So when Gianni and his siblings used to play as children, he said they used to play in like some ruins and stuff. Just going on. Playing in some ruins in Italy. That's pretty fantastic. And the Medusa head was decorated on the floors of these ruins. And so he kind of grew up with it. And he really tried to align himself with Greek mythology. And he believed that Medusa was basically the symbol of women empowerment, and that's what he wanted his brand to be about, was empowering women to stand up to society and basically just be themselves and be powerful and knowledgeable and capable. Right? So that's why he chose the Medusa head, which I think is fabulous, and thank you so much, Gianni. So he adopted that at the inception of Versace in 1978. And then in 1993, that's when he made the decision to put it on everything. Put it on everything he made. Bags, clothing, necklaces, jewelry, sunglasses, everything. So now when I wear my Versace sunglasses, I will remember Gianni's little love letter to me saying, be empowered. Go women. Yeah. So thank you, Gianni. Okay. So I didn't find a ton about Gianni's personal life, right? But there is information about his partner. So in 1986, so Gianni is 40 years old, he meets Mr. Antonio DeMarco. Who is Antonio DeMarco? He is a fabulous, very handsome fashion designer in Italy, and he's also a model. Ooh. So they meet at the La Scala Opera House in Milan, and immediately they hit it off, and they were together until Gianni's unfortunate murder 11 years later. So they were very loyal partners up until the end. Antonio was not in the spotlight, but he did go on record a few times talking about Gianni. He also wrote a book. And then unfortunately Antonio did pass away in 2022 due to pneumonia. But like I said, they were loyal partners up until the end, and we will talk about Antonio again at the end of this video when we talk about the murder. But yeah, so R.I.P. Antonio. You know, they're with each other again, so that's some kind of silver lining, right? So Versace's style is very glamorous and luxurious and bold, right? Like very 80s. But also kind of like dripping in gold. Like it's a very like gaudy, but like in a good way, right? Like it's very loud and rock and roll, I would say, right? He launched his first couture line in 1989, and he used a lot of like innovative techniques in his fashion, which includes like using like aluminum mesh in the designs, and then, it sounds dangerous, and then a thing called neo couture, which fuses leather and rubber together to make like, I'm assuming like pleather kind of looking latexy, like super sexy stuff, right? Which is like super in right now too. And then he added, in the 90s, he added 2 more clothing lines to Versace, Versus and Instantante. Instantante. I think that's how you say it. So Versace is just growing. So not only was Versace like a fashion technique trailblazer, but he was also a fashion show trailblazer. So usually what would happen is designers would invite like rich socialites to their, you know, their runway shows and stuff. But Versace, he invited like his friends, his family, and celebrities at the time. He was very close friends with Madonna, Sting, Elton John, Princess Diana, have you heard of her? And they would all show up to support him, and it started to become like a big party atmosphere. And they said that Versace really introduced like the first supermodel, right? Like, and kind of launched the fashion world into like an international stage, right? Like everyone was paying attention when these people would show up. So he really changed the fashion industry as a whole in like one swoop, right? Because after he started doing it, people kind of stuck their nose up at it at first, but then they saw the success, and his line was, you know, being sold out. And so other fashion designers started to follow suit, and pretty soon everyone was doing this. Anna Wintour, who, you know, if you don't know who she is, oh well, she also commented that Versace was really the one to bring fashion, celebrity, and the music world all together as well. So he was truly a trailblazer and a visionary, really redefining and re-landscaping the fashion world as we know it. So you may be wondering what other famous items that Versace did design. And one of them, which I think is the biggest one, is he designed that dress. Now, if you don't remember what the dress was, it was the dress that Elizabeth Hurley wore to the 1994 premiere of Four Weddings and a Funeral. This dress was black, and it had slits all the way up the side, and they were held together by these gold Medusa safety pins. You remember that dress, right? Oh man, super sexy. And it launched Elizabeth's career like immediately. Basically like, whoa, that's a dress, right? And she even said later on that she didn't really get a good look at the dress before she put it on. I think she was just like given the dress, right? And she saw pictures of it later and she's like, oh my God, that is a dress, right? Another thing that I didn't know was Versace was close friends with Elton John, which I didn't know. He actually designed Elton's tour outfits for his The One tour. And then he also designed a ton of stuff for theater and ballet around the world, including the American Ballet Theater, which is something I didn't know as well. He won a ton of awards for his fashion. He, including the American Fashion Oscar in 1993. And then, you know, his stuff is included in museums all over the world, including London, Chicago, Germany, Japan, everywhere. Everyone loves his stuff. And spoiler alert, Versace is still going and still going strong, right? They have locations all over the world and are being, you know, a pillar in the fashion industry still, even after Gianni's death, which I think is amazing to see. So something I did want to mention, in 1994 and 1995, this is when Gianni learns that he has a rare form of ear cancer, which pretty much almost takes him out. He leaves the company to recover, and Donatella basically falls in line to take over design for her brother. But luckily, 2 years later, Gianni comes back cancer-free. And this is 6 months before he is shot and killed, which you beat cancer and then boom, you're taken out anyways, which, like, come on. Donatella later stated that they were at odds at that point because she was kind of in line to take over and then he came back and then there was like friction, right? Because he was trying to get back his spot. Anyways, so when Gianni had his last couture line, he launched his fall collection in 1997 at the Ritz in Paris. Supermodels like Naomi Campbell and Erin O'Connor were there modeling, and this was less than a week from his death. But the cool thing is, in 2017, so 20 years after his death, Donatella had another show at the Ritz in Paris and had all of the big supermodels at the time come and join her on stage, and they dedicated that show to Gianni, which I thought was really, really sweet. So there was friction, but obviously Donatella and Gianni loved each other. So, all right, so now let's get into his unfortunate murder. Okay, so on the morning of July 15th, 1997, Gianni wakes up in his beautiful 1930s Mediterranean-style home in Miami Beach to a very relaxing day. He wanted some downtime after getting back from his fashion show in Paris, right? So he wanted some downtime, relaxation with his partner, Antonio DeMarco. So he wakes up, and at around 8:30, he takes a stroll down the street, which is very normal for him. He would walk down the street to the little cafe and grab his magazines, which include like Business Week and the New Yorker and Vogue, and he would get all his magazines and he would go back to his house. And sometimes he would splurge on an orange juice or something. And it wasn't unusual for everyone to see their like world famous neighbor just like out and about, like casually dressed. He was wearing like shorts and a t-shirt and flip-flops, and just walking down the street in the morning like a normal person. And so he grabs his magazines. He was gone like 10 minutes, and he comes back, and he is getting his keys to open up the door. His partner, Antonio, is right inside drinking his coffee right at the veranda, and like a typical day. And this stranger comes up behind him wearing a gray shirt and a white hat and black shorts, and puts a .40 caliber handgun to his head and shoots him twice in the back of the head, killing him instantly. So an eyewitness heard the shots and came running in the direction and saw Gianni on his front steps. And so he ran over, but realized there was just way too much blood for him to do anything. And he stated that, Gianni was kind of convulsing a little bit, and then he just stopped moving. Antonio DeMarco was inside, like I said, drinking coffee, and him and the butler heard the shots. They couldn't see anything because of all the stained glass on the front of the house, so they had to come out to actually see what was going on. And he said at that point he saw Gianni, and his blood turned to ice, and he knew he was gone. The authorities came and took Gianni to Jackson Memorial Hospital, which was just a few miles away, and at 9:15 he was pronounced dead at the age of only 50 years old. So R.I.P. to Gianni Versace. He beat cancer, and he still couldn't escape it, right? Massive talent just killed off, which is really sad. So like we've seen in other cases, people and fans from around the world flocked to Gianni's home, and after the steps were cleaned up, they put up memorials in memory of him. Designers like Valentino and Giorgio Armani also made statements about how untimely his death was and how tragic it was. Not only to lose that life, but to lose that talent and that pillar in the fashion world was jarring to a lot of people. But who shot Gianni Versace? Well, the FBI was hot on that tale as well. So let's get into who killed Gianni Versace. That would be Mr. Andrew Cunanan. So who is Mr. Andrew Cunanan? He is described by Vanity Fair, not me, as a gay gigolo down on his luck, which this is 1997, so I don't know. But he's 28 years old, so he's pretty young. And this was not the first murder that he had committed, in the last few months. He was on a killing spree and had killed 4 other men before Gianni. The first to die was Jeffrey Trail, who was also 28, I believe. Yeah, he was 28 too, and he was supposedly Andrew's friend. And then the next was David Madsen, who was 30, and that was Andrew's crush. And then next in line was 75-year-old Lee Miglin, and they don't really know the relationship between him and Andrew, but they think that they were like in business together. So these killings are seeming really random, right? And then the last to be shot by Andrew was William Reese, who he didn't know at all, and he just wanted his pickup truck. So like his murders were described as very sadistic, and he was known as being like a sexual offender as well. So I'm not sure all of the details, and if what those details are. I didn't really want to look into it. So if you're curious, you go and look in it. But yeah, and then so people speculate if Gianni and Andrew knew each other, but the family, the Versace family, deny that Gianni knew this person, and we don't know. We don't know the facts. So maybe they knew each other, maybe they didn't. But before the murder of Gianni, Andrew was already on the FBI's most wanted list. So they were already looking for him. And they said that he was living in Miami for a while and maybe just stumbled upon Gianni and decided to kill him. Or maybe he did know him and targeted him specifically in Miami. That is pretty unknown. So since there were eyewitnesses, people saw Andrew running from the scene of the crime, and later the clothes he was wearing was found beside the Chevy truck that he had stolen from and murdered William Reese for in a parking garage nearby. It was 6 days later, so July 23rd, that they figured out where he went, and he was hiding out still in Miami on this houseboat. And as the FBI approached, Andrew committed suicide. So the reasons for stalking and shooting Gianni are unknown to this day. And, you know, we can speculate all we want. Did they know each other? Did they not? Was it random? Was he going to kill more people after this? We'll never know. There was no suicide note. There was nothing like that. So on July 22nd, Gianni's funeral service was held at the Milan Gothic Catholic Church. 2,000 mourners showed up, including celebrities like Madonna and Princess Diana. Now, if you remember from our Diana video, this is 1 month before her untimely death. Maybe murder, who knows? So before he passed away, he had cancer, like I had said. So he had his affairs in order, so he did have a will. He left 20% of the company to Donatella, 30% to his brother Santo, and the remaining 50% to his niece, Donatella's daughter, Allegra, 50%. She was only 11 at the time, so when she became of age, she accepted the inheritance and became one of the board members. So she is heavily involved in the company right now, present day. So 3 months later, in October 1997, the winter collection did go as planned for Versace. And instead of rivals, you know, rivaling against the show, they actually showed up in support. This includes Armani and Lagerfeld, and also celebrities like Cher and Madonna and Demi Moore were there in support of Gianni, and also Donatella, who was putting on this fashion show. So the impact was huge, and the support was worldwide to the Versace family after his untimely death. So what kind of legacy did he leave? In less than 10 years, he built the Versace brand to be worth over $800 million. And that's in 1997 money. Holy. After his death, Donatella took over as creative director, and Santo took over as the CEO. Now, they together built the brand up to a whopping 2.1 billion with a B, and sold the company to Michael Kors in 2018. Now, don't worry, because Donatella is still on as creative director and helps the company grow to this day. So Donatella later said that when her brother passed away, that she didn't think she had what it took to continue his legacy. She didn't think she had the talent or, you know, to keep it going. And then all of a sudden something clicked, and she said, you know, I have to be strong for the company, for myself, and for my family, which I think comes from just the idea of Versace, right? Like he created it to be empowerment for women, you know, be who you are, be proud of who you are, be proud of how strong you are and how knowledgeable you are, right? And I think he is inspiring and empowering his sister from beyond the grave. So thank you, Gianni. So like always, I like to end with a quote from our person. So Gianni said, "I never fall down, I always fight," which, hell yeah. Yeah, right? I think that's a great quote. And I think he lived it too. You know, he was truly himself up until the end. He believed in his product. He believed in his artistic talent and his design. And we always need to remember to, you know, get back up and fight for who we are and what you believe in. So thank you, Gianni. He would have been 77 years old if he had lived to today. All right, so I hope you like this video. And like always, let's look at our beautiful painting. Ooh, I got the gold on there. I hope you don't mind the kind of messy filigree. It's kind of hard to do in an hour, but I think Gianni turned out so handsome, so fabulous. He looks great. I like the little green up there. Hey Gianni, you're gonna go with the other ones, don't worry. All right, guys. Well, thank you for joining me today. Be kind to one another, and I hope I see you the next one. All right, guys.